Glass remains the most fundamental part of a window's construction, and as the UK's #1 supplier of glass to the window industry, Pilkington has the weight of responsibility on its shoulders. How is it responding to the current economic pressures? Has the merger with Nippon been successful? And how will product development keep up with changing demands? David Pinder, Managing Director of Pilkington Building Products West, talks to the Glazine's editor, Nathan Bushell, about all this, as well as the recent price rises and that Downing Street petition.
It's been 3 years since Pilkington was acquired by MSG. Has the relationship been fruitful?
Yes, I believe it has. I think the 3 years we've been together has been a really interesting time for the group. I think we've come through it now, being far stronger than we were before we joined together as an organisation. I think the synergies are very clear for us all to see. On the one hand, we've got Pilkington bringing its operational excellence to the party. On the other hand, the quality aspect of NSG and the real focus on improving product quality in particular, I think has helped us within the Pilkington side of the merger. And also, I think, because we're both strong on the technology front, that's made for a really excellent technology team, so really good prospects for the future. In terms of the profitability of the group, of course, that was moving forward really well. We had only a year or two ago we were having record profits, but we have been affected, as everyone else has, by the global downturn. That's not to say that we haven't taken action as a consequence of that. We have. We've actually taken about 15% of the heads out of our UK workforce, and that's been painful, but it's been absolutely necessary. But it's helped us to carry on delivering against shareholder targets, and we announced our recent set of results. They were, I would say, in line with expectations, albeit, definitely suffering from the effects of global recession.
Price rises are always going to be difficult, aren't they? They're always going to be a sore point with your customers. But given the economic situation, do you think you might have got the timing wrong? And what do you think about the Downing Street petition?
It's never easy to put price increases through your customer base, particularly now. I understand, the difficulties our customers are going through. Pretty much the same as we are. Volumes are down, prices have been falling, and they're faced with lower revenues. And really, that's what we were faced with as well. One of the problems we have, of course, we've got a very high fixed cost base. So with the loss of volume, with the loss of price, we were facing a situation where we simply weren't covering our costs. And if we want to continue in existence as a business, then we simply have to charge more for our products. And if you look at it, in fact, all we were really doing was trying to restore prices to a level that they've been at in the past. So although some of the headline increases seem quite excessive, if you look behind those increases and look at the real substance of the increase, it was only putting prices, or not even back to the levels they'd been to only 18 months earlier. I think the other thing to say is that the headline grabber was 4mm float, but if you look at most of the products, the increase was nearer 10% for the vast majority of the products in our range. And again, if you then translate that into what it means to the end consumer, once that's in a window in an installed replacement glazing application, for example, it probably amounts to less than 1% increase overall for the final buyer, which is less than food has gone up this year. So yes, the headline was pretty significant. The reality is we have to do it, so otherwise we won't have a glass industry in this country. So was the timing right? It was a matter of survival. So we really have to push those increases through. Moving on to the petition, what can I say? I understand the frustration of customers when they're faced with what appear to be very significant price increases. So I don't blame people for feeling annoyed or even upset about that situation. But the petition itself, I have to say, is way wide of the mark, because we as a business are absolutely committed to following competition law and complying absolutely with that. And we've signed up to that as individuals. I mean, I have personally, and as a group. So there's absolutely no substance in it, and I just refuse it completely.
The development of glass doesn't stand still. While Energy Care was launched with much fanfare to the trade and window buying public, Pilkington continues to develop its offering to the glazing industry. David explained what we could expect from glass in the future.
Yeah, I mean, my view is that I think you could probably describe the last decade as the decade of the U value. We've all worked really hard to try and improve the emissivity of glass coatings to drive down the U values, but that's really reached the end of the line. It's a law of diminishing returns, and we're not really driving any more value for the end consumer by improving the U value anymore. I think the next decade will be the decade of the G value. And I see that, working in two different ways. For, commercial construction, it will be the lowest possible G value, so that we're trying to keep solar heat gains as low as possible to reduce the loading on air conditioning plants. On the other hand, in domestic houses, I think G values will be driven as high as possible, so that we all benefit from free solar gain, and that means that we can also add value to the outer pane of an IGU. So in the end, we'll have the inner pane keeping heat in the room, and the outer pane allowing more of the solar gain into the building, and that means that we'll end up with a solution which is potentially better than an opaque building material. So finally, glass wins over bricks.
David explained that achieving this requires extra clear glass, OptiWhite in Pilkington's case, which relies on such demanding glass production techniques that the furnaces need to be upgraded to cope with the extreme temperatures involved. However, the benefits are worth it, claims David.
I think it's also important then to be able to offer that product, because when you put it into a triple glazed unit, then the more leaves of glass you have, the clearer you need it to be, because otherwise each pane of glass will take out some of the solar gain. So by making those extra clear, that still allows the heat to enter the room from the sun and then trap it, maybe with two coatings instead of one.